Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Shit Moms Won't Say. My guest tonight is the founder and president of one of the most impactful media brands out there, currently ranked on the 100 best career development books of all time list. This woman is a global mentor who focuses on building people up. Podcast host, author, and speaker, founder and president of Leave Your Mark and mom of two, Aliza Licht.
Welcome. Thank you for that lovely intro.
You're so welcome. And by the way, I do have to, so Aliza is also a podcast host, right? So you know I got to make sure I say your name right. Here's what I'm going to say about you. So I think a lot of people think you just like jump on and you're like, I know all of this stuff. I'm like ever present. So like, you're the first person that was like, what are you going to say about me? And thank you, because it's the only thing that I write out and I put a lot of effort into it.
Yeah, I totally get it. Those show notes, those prep show notes, they take time.
No one else gives a shit what I had to say about that. So thank you very much. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. Well, thanks for having me on.
Of course. And we're both sitting in New York. So we're both New Yorkers. We're both Long Islanders at heart.
Yes, at heart. Once a Long Islander, always a Long Islander.
You can't explain it. If you don't live here, you can't know. It's an if you know situation.
I think that's valid.
It is. It totally is. Let's jump right into the big mom three. So first question, the big mom three. Did you always know you wanted to be a mom?
Absolutely.
First of
all, I grew up in an extremely powerful mom vibe environment. Super amazing mother, but also super amazingly inspiring grandmother who lived with us for 13 years growing up. And she was a Holocaust survivor.
Mine too.
Oh, wow. And all four of my grandparents were. So, coming from a place of a household where my sister was 5 years younger, we were always very much encouraged to have a very strong voice. So I think we grew up just understanding how their impact really made us who we are today. And then in turn, we were always inspired to do the same for our kids.
Oh, I love that. I get a real mixed bag answer on that, especially from mothers who have been a bit more career motivated. I find a lot of times people are like, no, I didn't know until I knew.
That's really fine too. That's fine too. And
sure.
It's so funny that you say that, Jess, because I've always been career motivated. And it was never an or for me. It was always an and.
Very cool. Very interesting. Yeah. I haven't gotten that answer in a long time. I've gotten more people, more mothers than not saying 100% didn't know, myself included, didn't know. Very cool. Okay. Second question, the big mom three. And I know, because again, big surprise. We talked about this before. I know you're like grappling with this one. So I'm curious what's going to come out. What is the shittiest or like most backhanded piece of advice or comment you've ever gotten from another parent?
I think it probably has to do with what we're going to talk about with your third question, which is the judgment that goes with being a quote mother who works, right? And possibly not always, being available for those play dates back in the day when those were very instrumental in forming friendships and for your kids. And, I had a nanny, I had a full-time job, and that was something that I just didn't do. And by the way, fun fact, I didn't even want to do it. I think the play date is the worst activity in the entire world.
Agree.
So, I think there was probably a lot of comments back then. I mean, my kids are now 17 and 14, so hard to remember, but I definitely remember feeling like, you know what, it's okay for me to not be the person doing that because I'm setting an example for my kids in a totally different way. And no judgment if you're home all day and can do that, but that was not something that I was doing.
Well, and I think the play date serves different people differently, right? So if you're, and we're going to talk about how much I love the term working mother, right? If you're a quote unquote working mother, play dates could actually elicit way more stress than they're worth because you're thinking about a million other things. If you're somebody who maybe has my wife is a doula, so she kind of makes her own schedule and she, works odd hours. I know for her, like play dates are a great way for, adult social interaction, right? For me, I'm like, I don't want to talk to anyone at all.
Right.
Like, when work is done, I don't want to talk to anyone.
Well, that's what's so interesting, because here you are trying to enable your kids to be social and have friends, but no one ever said that we wanted to add more friends. Like, I have plenty of friends. I don't need to add more friends. So I think that's,
yeah, totally.
And it's a forced discussion. It's a forced conversation. So yeah, I think definitely I mean, and that still goes on. There's a lot of judgment between both camps. It's like, okay, what do you do all day? And what do you do all day? It's like the opposite ends of the spectrum.
Totally. 100% agree with you. Okay. Third question of Big Mom 3. What is a skill or superpower you had before becoming a mom that you think has really helped you as a mom?
The ability to multitask on an Olympic level. Like, I am someone who has always juggled a million balls at one time in the air. I cannot actually juggle in real life. If someone gave me actual balls, I couldn't do it. But more is more with me. And I think that I think it's true when they say the busiest people are the most productive, because you're just like adding it onto the list. So that skill proved very valuable as a mom, especially when I was, doing my full-time job at the same time.
And that's exactly where I want to go now, right? Is your career, but sort of follow-up question to that. Do you find when you don't have a lot on your plate, and I don't want to be like, are you miserable? Right? That's the wrong way to ask that question. Do you struggle when you're not busy enough?
100%. In fact, I would describe it as a feeling of inadequacy. Like, I'm not doing enough. I didn't produce enough. So I am always needing something, and usually multiple things at the same time.
A real type A. Real type A. The
guilty as charged.
Type A in the world. Yes. But that's I think in sports that's called a layup. So we'll go, you're I don't know, something. We're theater kids. I don't know. You've had like a really interesting career, which has led you here, founder, president of Leave Remark, an amazing book, an amazing media presence, and an amazing podcast. I'm a huge fan. So I mean, the people who listen to this know this is not my full-time job. I sit head of sales for a company, and I always love listening to anything career development adjacent that is from another strong woman. I find it fascinating. And I think there's so many similarities between women that are at certain levels of their career. So I love listening. But I would love to know, what brought you from your career to here? Like, was it just a natural progression? Kind of talk me through it.
Sure. So, I mean, natural progression, I would say, is probably true later on, but, just super briefly, I really thought I was going to be a plastic surgeon. So I majored in neurobiology and physiology. I took my MCATs. I interned at hospitals. I did the whole thing.
No shit.
And then in my junior year of college, after this one particular horrendous internship, I was like, and here's the irony, wait for it. I was like, I am not wearing surgical masks all day. I am not going to spend my life. I know, total mic drop, like, hello, like, wow.
I don't want to blame you for the pandemic, but do you think maybe
possibly am responsible. Yeah.
Okay.
So, and aside from that, I just felt like it was not the right environment for me. I'm like a very upbeat person. Sorry, I'll repeat. I'm a very upbeat person. I have high energy. It wasn't right. And, I looked around my college apartment and I had all these fashion books, and I was so always in love with fashion. My room was wallpapered in fashion magazines back in the day when they really mattered. And I was like, I want to work for a fashion magazine. So that set me on my fashion journey.
Damn, that just like, whoosh. And also that is one of your children coughing.
Yes.
Mom podcast.
Yes, so true. Yes.
Don't worry.
Okay, cool.
My kid was screaming 5 minutes ago, and now she's not. She could again. It's no big deal.
Yeah. I also have 2 dogs. I'm just going to warn you. So I really, broke the news to my parents, and I was like, listen, this is something I'm passionate about, and I want to pursue it. So I did. And that started me, I started on the magazine side of the industry in a very Devil Wears Prada sort of life, and then moved over to public relations in the late 90s and really grew up in the PR world. at Donna Karan, spent 17 years working there on both brands, Donna Karan and DKNY, and had an incredible journey there, incredible mentors, teams, etc. And then, really what happened was every brand started to think about digital. And one of the things I came up with was, why can't we sort of convey our story, our brand story, a la Gossip Girl, and have an anonymous character that we could tell stories through and show the world of Donna Karan and DKNY through, and give people like a fly on the wall experience. And that was a little bit you touch it, you own it. So I became this character anonymously, DKNY PR girl. And what I found myself doing on Twitter, which was the main platform at the time, was, of course, sharing my world in PR and trying to inspire other young professionals to take on this career, but also giving out a lot of career advice. And I found myself just like in the DMs mentoring like people who were like, how do I get into fashion? Or, just asking career advice. And I really loved it. And lo and behold, one day an editor reached out and they were like, we think you should write a book. And I was like, no, that's crazy. I have 2 little kids. I have a full-time job. How am I going to write a book? And her name is Amanda Englander. And she was like, no, I think, you tweet like 100 times a day. That's a lot of words already. So
that's
like,
you're already
there.
Very true.
It is true. So, recognizing that I was ultimately really scared to do it, I was like, okay, that's exactly why you have to do it. So I did it, and it's called Leave Your Mark. And that really led me on this path of realizing that I feel most happy when I am helping someone else sort of strive to reach something. And that snowballed into, the Leave Your Mark podcast, which I'm really passionate about. And I bring on guests on that show of people in my network who have done incredible things in their careers. And also now have the Leave Your Mark community, which is my way to mentor at scale, a certain age group of women who maybe haven't found their mentor yet, like I did back then.
Yeah.
And also can learn from each other. So that's sort of, and then I, of course, also consult on the marketing side in certain areas, but that's really, it just kind of lights me up.
Oh, it's so cool. It's so great. And like, what I love about it, and you really just put it into words, right? There's this group of women, and I'll share a quick story, right? I'm hiring for my own team right now. And I've just hired somebody who's, let's say she's in the 25 to 29 range. And that is such a crucial age group, especially of women. And what you said is there are people out there who have not yet found their mentor, and perhaps they never will, right? There are people that don't really know how to make that connection, to find that right mentor. So to have you be able to do that on a broad scale is really interesting. You know what I mean? Like I defer to my mentor on everything, and it's very cool to become someone's mentor, and the cycle continues. So to have that in a broad stroke is, bravo, really, really cool.
Thank you. But I also do want to say though, it's not a silver bullet, right? You don't have to have one perfect magical person that's going to just like wave their wand and like make your career amazing. Like you can lean on tons of different people for different aspects of the advice that you might need at a certain time.
Well, that's the asking for help, right? I mean, most women specifically. And I think that, am I right in assuming the age group you mentor is probably a bit in that range? I meant like 25 to 35, right? Like absolutely. Very, very crucial age group. Not great for asking for help, right? You're looking at people who are quote unquote more successful than you, which what does that even mean, right? More successful than you. And to have to go and say, I don't know how to do this thing. Can you help me? I think it's wonderful. I'm thrilled when someone asks me for help. I'm sure you're thrilled when someone asks you for help, but to have the confidence to ask someone for help is a big deal.
For sure.
I think that, like you said, no silver bullet, that you're teaching that lesson to that group it's so awesome.
Thank you.
You're welcome. But that kind of leads me to this is a big question. So I talk a lot about this on my platform because it's something that it straight up incenses me, right? This term incenses me. The term is working mom.
Yep.
And it's not that moms don't work. Moms work. I am a working mom. Aliza is a working mom. We never say working dad. We don't say it. And we certainly don't say working parents, right? We don't say it. We only say working mom as to indicate that a working mother is outside of the realm of what a mother should be doing. And that really bothers me. So I'd love your weigh in on it. What do you think? Am I right?
Well,
and if you disagree, I'm going to just like hit stop and then it goes over.
So of course you're right, but I will tell you that it's not as much of a mom thing as it is I will tell you that it's not as much of a mom thing as it is a female versus male thing, because the other thing we never say is male CEO. We say female CEO.
Damn.
We do not say male CEO.
You're
so
right.
It's not so much the function of the person as it is the sex, right? So I think in general, there was a social media campaign. I want to say in pandemic years, I can't even remember if it was last year or 2 years ago, but there was a whole movement to cross out the word female in front of CEO on LinkedIn. There was also a whole movement to add being a mother to your LinkedIn profile as one of your jobs, which I think is amazing. Yeah. So, I agree with you. There's no distinction for men in that regard. But to me, I think of it as someone who is incredibly good at multitasking, who is trying to set an example for their children to say, like, I can be an independent person and contribute to society or a cause or a company. And I think it's really important to show your kids that hard work actually matters. Not to say that stay-at-home moms don't work hard, they do, but it's a very different type of thing. And I always say that, like, it's not just like the going to work part is kind of the easy part, right?
Oh, sure.
It's when you come home and your work doesn't end, but then the home life begins. That collision of everything is really, I think, where it's hardest.
Well, especially now, right? I mean, I don't know how you're working right now. I've always sort of been empowered to work remotely and in office majority of my career. Now I work 100% remotely. I never have to leave this seat if I don't want to. When the day is over, though, there's no commute home to decompress. There's no, right, let me listen to an audiobook for 15 minutes or let me catch up on anything. It's right back into it. So it's, there's no division of like church and state, so to speak, in your own home.
Yeah. And that's hard. I think it's really hard. I think that's the hardest part of the sort of what's come out of the pandemic. Because as much as it's nice to like not commute, it's also nice to have, you mentioned that sort of like decompression time. I think it's really an important thing that we kind of lost.
We did. And those are really like very difficult boundaries to set. Right. And I'm incredibly fortunate in my setup at home, right? I have a beautiful office. My wife is incredible and, is a career person herself and understand, not everybody has it as good as I do. But that's a really hard boundary to set, hey, I'm working right now.
Right.
Line. I'm done working right now. Line. You're the difference between being working mom and mom is a door. And we didn't used to have that, it's very different.
So true. So true.
Different. Like here it is, you're filming a podcast, right? You're filming a podcast midday. Your kid's right there.
Yeah.
Right there. My kid's right. I mean, this door is right here. If this door wasn't here, I could see her. Really
there's something
different.
Also really nice about it.
There is. Yeah. I wouldn't have gotten the time with my 2.5-year-old that I got had, you not caused the pandemic by not becoming a plastic surgeon.
It's so funny.
So thank you so much for that.
You're so welcome.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. So let's chat about what's coming up next. Cause I know there is no way that you are not working on something. There's just no way. I would bet my house on it. What is coming up next for you?
Well, you're very intuitive, Jess. I actually have a very large project that I'm in the middle now, more tail end of completing. It's going to come out next year. It has not been announced yet, so I can leave it there. But yes, there will be something to announce probably in the next few months.
And when it is announced, we will share it and make sure everybody knows what you have going on. You're very welcome. You're very welcome. All right, let's start to wrap it up. I have 2 final questions. One's fun, one's deep, and we'll see how they both go.
Okay.
So your kids they're teenagers. So would you say 14 and 17?
Yes.
Okay. So I like this question because it really depends on the ages of people's children. With your children at their current ages, what is something you cannot live without as a parent?
Okay. That I can't live without because of their age.
Examples include, I've had people say music, I've had people say vodka, I've had people say doors that lock, anything.
It's a good question. This is actually funny because in my sort of day job, in my consulting job, I do, brand marketing and digital strategy. And I would say the ability for my children to be able to not follow me on social media is a gift, because anything I do in social media, they hate.
Of course. Well, it's very cringe. It's very cringe.
Very cringe. Yeah. Yet, by the way, so Sabrina, my daughter, like unfollowed me probably a year or two ago, but yet all her friends follow me. So I don't know how effective that is, but that separation of like, just don't look. That's it. Just don't look. Like, I'll do my thing. You do your thing. That's where we are at this point.
I like it. It's a good answer. I'm not at that problem yet. I'm not. My poor daughter has been the source of several viral videos on the internet. And when she gets older, I hope she likes them.
Yeah, she probably
likes them.
She probably will, because she won't be recognizable. But like, yeah, I mean, I have to ask permission if they're in any sort of photo. I have to say, is this okay? I mean, they're like a celebrity. They're like, let me approve my photo for media.
Sure, let me edit it. Of course, right. Yes. And like, we're mindful of like posting things that we don't think would embarrass them when they're older. But who knows? I'm sure I've done something that will scar both of them for life in very, very deep ways. It's who we are. That's what parents do. Okay, final question. What is something you know now that you wish you knew before becoming a mom? But more importantly, if you knew this thing, would you have believed it before becoming a parent?
I would say one of the most excruciating things that I had to do when my kids were both infants was journal on which side of their head that they were lying on. So I'd be like lying on the left side, lying in the middle, lying on the right.
Like flathead stuff.
Yes, flathead stuff. And apparently you don't have to do that at all. So I don't know, that would have been great. That would have been hours given back to me. I think, listen, my kids are older. So back then, there's also so many things that I use as a mom that have been recalled since I use them. And like
things we use that have been recalled.
I mean, I'm like, okay, I'm super happy that like they didn't die from those things, because some of those things were like, if your child uses this, they're going to be trampled or they're going to be suffocated. I was like, good to know. They're 17 and 14 now. So, had no clue.
Well,
I guess ignorance is bliss.
Ignorance is bliss. Yes. Very good. Flathead journals. You don't have to keep flathead journals anymore.
Nope.
Not a thing.
Nope. Although I really wish I still had them though, because I think that they were so well documented. I could like put them in a museum.
I'm sure they were. Yeah, I'm sure they were like in a perfect format, indents, all the beautiful stuff, all the beautiful stuff of how you make a spreadsheet, I'm sure. Well, listen, thank you so much for being here. Where can people find you on social media and follow all the cool shit you have going on?
So, well, first of all, thank you. Thanks for asking great questions.
You're so welcome.
On Instagram, Aliza Licht, XO, Twitter, Aliza Licht, podcast is Leave Your Mark, book is Leave Your Mark, website's alizalicht.com.
Awesome. And we will, of course, tag everything out, so it will make it very, very easy to find. Thank you so much again for being here. Thank you. Of course. Thank you. And thank you for tuning into Shit Moms Won't Say. We'll see you next week.